friends, welcome to Bookish Bliss, our virtual book club. Every week we will dig into a section of chapters in our favorite books. Let's get started!
Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 15 of Bookish Bliss. We have a lot to discuss today.
Yes, this week we'll be covering chapters 11 through 20 of A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas. There will be no spoilers beyond the covered chapters. You don't have to read the whole book to listen. You just have to be caught up on the chapters we're covering. Amanda, are we drinking tonight?
Yes, we are. I'm drinking Tito's and LaCroix because I loved it so much last time that I'm ready to have a good night and drink some more. What are you drinking tonight?
I am actually drinking tonight, but I am not drinking
Yay.
a red because it's hot as balls in this house. And I needed something a little bit more refreshing. So I'm drinking Decoy, my favorite Sauvignon Blanc. And I have my wine glass full of ice, and I'm just gonna pour it really quick so
Yeah, let's do it.
I can actually drink this episode.
I know. I'm so excited. We're going to have another fun drunk episode.
It's been a few weeks since
I
drank for the episode.
I know. There was one I didn't either.
I just poured that much into my glass.
That's what I like to see.
Well, cheers to episode 15.
Cheers.
Nice full glasses.
Yes.
Cheers.
Cheers. Now let's get started with the good stuff and break down ACOWAR Part II. Over to you, Meg. Please summarize this set of chapters for us.
All right, just like every week, we love the summaries. We're going to
Yes,
break
we
it
do.
down into tiny little bits, and then we're going to expand on it later in the episode. Here we go.
Perfect.
Chapter 11, we are in the Autumn Court with Feyre, Darling, and Lucy Baby after their epic escape from the Spring Court. They may have left together, but they are not seeing eye to eye. Lucien feels like he doesn't even know Feyre anymore. We knew this journey was not going to be easy because we end this chapter with Lucy's big bad brothers ready to attack.
Those freaking redheads.
You were not pleased with them.
No.
Chapter 12, Lucy's daddy wants a meeting with Lucien and Feyre, but they are not going to get caught in his grasp, so they start battling their way through the remainder of the Autumn Court and into the Winter Court. Even with Feyre and Lucien working together, they may not be able to escape his brothers. Chapter 13, Lucien tells Feyre to run as Eris starts to melt the frozen lake they were trying to escape across. Eris catches Feyre, and before he has a chance to go anywhere with her, Cassian and Azriel slam down onto the frozen ice and assist Feyre and Lucien in their battle against the autumn airs. Feyre reveals she is High Lady of the Night Court, and they cease fire for the time being and head back to Valoris with Lucien in tow.
That's right, High Lady.
Chapter 14, All the Tears, the most epic reunion for Faysand. The fall Tyrannese love they have for each other is just chef's kiss. Perfect scene between them. We get some updates in this chapter, but who really cares about the information we got when Feyre and Rhys's steamy making up for lost time scene happens for multiple pages?
Yes.
We can talk about the plot later.
Yes.
Chapter 15. Lucien gets his last warning about how he will treat Feyre and gets flown to the House of Wind. Lucien finally gets to hear Feyre's true story of what happened under the mountain in the months following in the Night Court. We get to see her sisters, both as High Fae, and Nesta is still Nesta, but apparently likes to read romance novels. And Elaine, well, she's a mess, traumatized and broken beyond repair at this point. Worse than Feyre ever was, and that's saying a lot.
True. That is saying a lot.
Chapter 16. We have our first Inner Circle meeting since Feyre's return, and we are prepping for war. Amren, though, is very cranky throughout this entire scene. Amren believes that Feyre's sisters will need to join them in their war efforts in order for them to repair the wall and have all 7 courts align against Hybern. There will also be a High Lords meeting with all 7 courts. Can't wait to see what happens at that shit show of a meeting.
I can't wait for that meeting.
Chapter 17. We get a dinner with everyone, including Lucien and Nesta, where Lucien doesn't understand the dress code. Elaine sadly does not join them. We get the lighthearted Inner Circle banter we haven't seen in a while and probably will not see for a long time with war approaching. And Lucien agrees to assist the Night Court with his family and prepping for the High Lords meeting.
Making a comeback in my heart.
Yeah. Chapter 18. Rhys said an important meeting needs to occur before the High Lords, and that is meeting with Care in the Huan City to attain their Darkbringer Legion for the war. Feyre declares she wants to learn how to fly. Nesta agrees to work with them on the wall, but not to get the other High Lords to agree with them, and they better not bring in Elaine. Feyre consumes an unknown amount of wine after her interaction with her eldest sister, and she ends the night with a stroll with Rhys and Valaris, deciding they will fight for their future.
That's right.
Chapter 19, Cassian lets Feyre know he was upset with her for keeping vital information from him before entering Highburn, and takes it out on her in the training ring. Feyre flees her training early with Azriel when Nesta shows up, and she heads for her first flying lesson. It was not super successful, but at least we know she can still grow her wings.
Yes, I need her to fly. That would be so cool.
It would be so cool. Chapter 20, our last chapter. Feyre sees her first public library and she's acting really weird about it. We meet a priestess who works there. We learn Feyre and Rhys should never research together ever again. And lastly, Feyre decides that we will need to add a few monsters to their list of allies if they plan on winning this war. Can't wait to see how all that unfolds. Their first stop, the Bone Carver.
Wild. That blew my mind. I can't wait to read more interactions with the Bone Carver.
Yes.
And
me
whatever
too.
other monsters we're going to be in contact with.
For sure. I definitely love scenes with the Bone Carver. He's just, or it is, who knows
I
what
know,
the
because
Bone
you
Carver
never know what they're
actually
going to
is.
see. Yeah.
Yeah. But they're always definitely full of information and always very interesting what comes out of their mouth.
Yeah, so true.
All right, Amanda, do you want to catch us up on our characters?
Yes, I shall.
Woo!
All right, I'm going to start off our character section today with Feyre and Lucien, since we are with them escaping from the Spring Court at the beginning of our set of chapters.
Yes.
Feyre and Lucien are on their journey up north to the Night Court. They stop in a cave that Lucien used to use while he hunted when he lived there in the Autumn Court. They decided to stay for one night. Lucien tells Feyre that he knew she was lying since she unleashed the light in Highburn. He had a friend in the Dawn Court who had the same power. The light was identical, so he knew she was lying and saying that it was doing something that it wasn't doing. It was all horseshit, and he knew it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we definitely knew that Lucien was not picking up what she was putting down. We definitely said that last episode.
Yeah.
We knew that when we ended our last book, and we're just kind of getting that confirmation now. So
I love
think
that we're learning about all his friends too, because I remember Tamlin back in book 1 telling Feyre that Lucien was the sociable one. He's kind of
Mhm.
He kind of is like Elaine in that way. I just
That's
realized.
Yeah, no, that is true. So maybe that's a point for the Lucien
Yeah.
Elaine mate category.
Yeah.
Because Elaine was the social butterfly at these big parties back in the mortal realm. She would
Yeah.
go from person to person who she knew she needed to speak to in order to get vital information and to suck up, basically.
Yeah.
And that's what Lucien is in Prithian. He's
I
done that in
know.
all the courts.
Yeah, and we're actually seeing one of his friends. He's learning from them and knows somebody in the Dawn Court that has the same power. So, it helps to be sociable, I guess.
Yeah, I think having Lucien on your side or allied with you is definitely a strength.
Yeah, he has some good resources in that little head of his.
Mm-hmm.
Lucien warns Feyre that his father will hunt her for taking his power if he finds out, and he will kill her for learning to wield it. Although Feyre didn't seem too concerned. She told Lucien that he can get in line with the rest of them.
Ooh, the sass continues with
I
Feyre
know.
in this set of chapters.
I love it. I'm looking forward to it so much every time I see her name pop up on the pages.
Yeah, what's she gonna say now?
Yeah, exactly. They make it through 5 days of hiking with little food and no sleep. Lucien also explains to Feyre that the Autumn Court citizens would absolutely sell him out to his father if they saw him. As the youngest of 7 sons, he wasn't needed or wanted, so he had more time to study and train for as long as he'd liked. He learned about the land from the people and learned about the people too. But after Jesminda, which is the girl that he fell in love with, who his dad killed, they would sell him out for not being able to protect her from his father's wrath. She was one of them, and not protecting her was a betrayal of their trust too. Which is kind of sad, because obviously if Lucien could have done something in that moment, he would have, but he literally was being held down by 4 brothers.
Yeah, he definitely wasn't like, oh, well, I guess that happened. Like,
Yeah.
it is what it is. No, Lucien was
He's
definitely
still fucked
fighting
up
for
about it.
her.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's still a mess about it. So for them to turn their back on him in his time of need is just kind of messed up. But I think it just shows how brutal the Autumn Court really is.
Yeah. It's true.
From its high lord down.
Yep. Literally. We also learned that Lucian's family name is Vencera.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, I like it. Lucian Vencera.
I know, it's like spicy.
Although we do learn he doesn't use his last name anymore or doesn't associate with it for
For good
obvious
reason.
reasons.
Yes. Jinx.
Yes. We also learned that Feyre may have the power to fix the tears in the wall. The wall was made by fairies coming together, and her very magic is a blend of all the High Lords. Since Nesta and Elaine were directly forged by the cauldron itself as well, they might bear some magic that can be used. Feyre will ask her sisters and see if they have any sort of power. See if they'd be willing to talk to the others about what they endured. She will make their desperation clear, but she believes it should be their choice whether they want to help or not.
Choice, 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 choice,
Yep.
choice.
She
I
gets
think
that from Rhysand.
anytime we hear the word choice in the rest of this series, we take a shot.
Oh my god, yeah. We'll be fucked up by then.
I
This
know.
episode.
It's all about choice with Rhysand. You know,
Yeah.
Amanda, 16 pages later, it's all about choice with Rhysand.
I know.
And as much as I love these characters, and we know that I do, I feel like it gives me a right to pick them apart when they're being a little ridiculous.
Yeah.
Even though it's not them, it's Sarah's writing, but
No.
whatever.
Yeah. I think she harps on it a little too much, Feyre. Like, we get
Yeah,
it. It's
we
the
get it.
choice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, we learned that Feyre apparently has never been to a library before. Well, if you don't count the private libraries in the Spring and the Night Court, and her family had one in their mansion, but she describes it as like a real one, meaning, I don't know, a public library, I guess?
Yeah, that was just so weird to me. I guess, yeah, a library where there's scholars and people
Yeah.
that work there that are doing research and not just a home library where they have just
True.
a collection of books that
And
they
a
want
sofa.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Okay.
still, it's still weird. She was like,
Yeah.
a library? A
Yeah.
real one? I'm like, that's just so weird to harp on right now, but okay.
Especially in a mystical, magical land of fae and all these different creatures, she's harping on never seeing a library.
Maybe the architecture of the library that they're in is pretty cool and unique to
Yeah.
be excited about, but the library itself is okay, you're in a library. Maybe like
Cool.
I don't know what the library looks like is what she's excited about,
Yeah.
but that's not how it's coming across.
I will describe the library in our world building section. So,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
But let's move on. Lucian's brothers woke them up from their sleep in the cave. He tells Feyre and Lucian that their father wishes to see them. Feyre elbows him right in the nose, traps them in the cave so that Lucian and her can escape. Eris and two others found Feyre and Lucian later again on the lake with a flame-covered hand. He was planning to melt the ice in which they stood. Feyre sees Eris and Cassian going at it as soon as Cassian and Asriel arrive to rescue them. And Lucian and Asriel take on the two other brothers until she says stop. And they obey. Feyre is the only rational thinker in this moment and realizes that if she spares them now, maybe they will be allies instead of enemies in the war with Hybern.
Mm-hmm.
I could see where she's going with this, but I don't know.
It's for sure that Baron would definitely side with Hybern if they had killed Eris and his other heirs on
Definitely.
the ice that day. It just would not have gone well. It would have started an internal war, which we just don't need at this point.
Exactly.
We need them all to unite, even though she
Yeah.
took down the Spring Court. But I guess we're just not considering them as allies at this point because they're
Yeah.
already aligned.
Even though he
with
is
Hybern.
invited to the meeting, Tamlin.
Well, yeah, he is because they explained that it would cause more drama and the other courts would think of aligning with Spring if he
Yeah.
wasn't invited.
Yeah. It's true.
But they don't think he's going to show up. That's for sure.
I hope he doesn't.
I hope he does.
But he's gonna. I know he's gonna.
It's the drama. We need the drama.
Yeah, exactly. So Cassian and Asriel come to Feyre and Lucian's rescue, and they fucked shit up. Siphons and wings and good health and all. Last time we saw them, they were both hurting, so I'm so happy that they're back in our story and alive and well.
Literal chills when I read it the first time when Cassian
I know.
slams down onto the ice with his red siphons, and I'm like, it's Cassian.
I think I screamed too.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah.
Yeah, it's so nice to see him land first because obviously Azrael was injured, but Cassian's wings were more messed up. So
they literally didn't think he was ever gonna fly again.
yeah, so to see him land first and then Azrael is just oh, okay.
Thank God, yeah. Azriel healed within a few days after the visit to Hybern. Cassian's wings were more complex though, but he trained every day to regain his strength. The healer rebuilt most of his wings, but he will be fine. Thank God.
Thank God. Thank the cauldron.
Thank the cauldron, yes. Cassian tells Feyre that he went up to the House of Wind every other day when she was in the spring court. It was great exercise for his wings, but I think it was just so he could visit Nesta.
Interior motives.
Yes, indeed.
Indeed.
Cassian also tells Feyre that he's pissed at her and Rhysand for lying to them and hiding the truth, forcing them to go blindly into Hybern. He tells Feyre that Rhysand has done that previously to them as well to save them from Amarantha. And Feyre realizes that he is right and would probably do it again.
Yeah. I think she would do it again
Definitely
too.
100%. Yeah. Yep, she would.
They're two of the same.
That's why
one
they're
of
mates.
the same.
So maybe Lucian and Elaine really are mates. After I just made that connection, I'm like,
maybe
they're more alike than we think.
Yeah, that's true. We're adding that to the
Yeah.
Lucian Elaine column.
Yes. More comes back into our story as well, but she's staying on the border after she learned Feyre's whereabouts and learned that Eris was involved. She was totally avoiding him, but feeling guilty for it. But of course, Feyre is her understanding self.
Yeah, Moore is not very happy in these sets of chapters about that interaction with the Autumn Court, and now we have to go to the Huon City to ask her father for his help. So she's just not a happy camper in these chapters.
Yeah. She's having a bad section.
Yeah. She's still her normal, more bantery self, but she definitely is not happy about the game plan.
Oh my god, I know. And she gets Nesta's wrath too.
I know. Moore can't catch a break in this set of chapters.
She can't. Feyre is finally back home in Valaris and sees Amren exactly where she left her back before she entered the spring court. She says to Feyre, I see you have a new pet, talking about Lucian. Also, Nesta has the balls to ask Amren some questions at the dinner table later in this section. Why are her eyes glowing? Something no one else in the inner circle has ever asked her. Her reply was, they glow because it was the one part of the containment spell that it could not get quite right. The one glimpse into what was beneath. Nesta even pushes a little further and asks, what is beneath? But Amren tells her no one has asked that either because it's not polite to ask and they are afraid. And now I'm more afraid of her.
I'm surprised, though, that when Cassian was drunk or something, that he hasn't pushed it or asked what she really is. Because Cassian, I feel like, has the balls on him to do something like that.
But also, wasn't it Cassian who Rhysand dared to go into the library? Maybe after that, he's just so fucking scared to even find out what Amren is.
Yeah, he's like, what if Amren is that creature down there?
Yeah. Rhysand is so incredibly happy to finally see Feyre again that he tells everyone to go find somewhere else to be for a while after they get back to Valaris.
Bound to go wow wow.
Yep. Rhysand tells Feyre that whatever she did in the spring court worked. Tamlin's sentries abandoned him. Over half his people refused to appear for the tithe, and some are leaving for other courts, and some are murmuring of rebellion. So whatever she did definitely fucking worked.
Work, girl. Woo!
Rhysand was too far away to get to Feyre, so he sent Az and Cassian. He explains to Feyre that he hadn't heard anything from the Queen since Hybern. It has been radio silent. That's because they're dead, but we don't know that yet for sure. That's just the thought that's in my head.
We have
every time I talk about the Queens.
No confirmation either way. Even when we're reading, she says this. We'll read a part of the Queens because they're dead, Megan.
Yeah,
because they're dead. I'm like,
I'm convinced they have to be dead.
Oh my God.
If they're not dead, I'll be so fucking surprised and pissed. He needed to see for himself why that was, but he didn't make it because he felt Feyre through the bond again. They don't have an explanation of why the Queens have been so quiet, locked up in their palace.
No.
Feyre and Rhysand are now wearing wedding rings.
Put a ring on
Feyre is wearing the silver ring with the blue sapphire stone from the Weaver's Cottage. And Rhysand is wearing a matching silver band.
I love that he's wearing a ring.
Our little bride and groom.
Little newlyweds.
Hubby and wifey. Rhysand plans to send invitations to every High Lord and Prythian for a meeting in 2 weeks to see who stands with them and make sure they understand the consequences if they don't.
Yes.
Ianthe, we got a quick mention of her, and after Ianthe suffered Feyre's wrath, she's hiding out and won't leave her temple.
Good.
That's where you belong, bitch.
Stay in there forever.
Stay in there forever, never come out.
Ever
We're better
again.
off without you.
We never want to see your face ever again.
I don't never want to see you. Nesta and Elaine are safe, but they're not doing so well.
No.
They're in the House of Wind. They did not leave the upper part of the palace or ask for anyone or anything. Nesta is still a bitch. She hasn't seen Feyre in months and still has no desire to. Rhysand hasn't mentioned any signs of special powers for them, but Feyre had seen it in Nesta's eyes that day in Highborn. Foreshadowing.
Foreshadowing!
Lots of that in this section. Elaine was not as unbothered as Nesta. She was devastated. Her skin was so pale that Feyre realized the color of death, of sorrow, was white. She described Elaine as a shell, a void. She still just wanted to go home. She was supposed to marry the Lord's son next week. She had always been so full of light. Perhaps that's why now she kept all the curtains open, to fill the void where all the light had once been.
I
Poor
know.
little Elaine.
I know. I feel so bad for Elaine because she was just like full of life, like la la la, in her
Yeah.
own little world, no matter her circumstances. And life has now finally crushed her.
Yeah. And it didn't even crush her when they were piss poor,
No.
when Feyre was hunting for them and they wouldn't eat for days. And she still had her bubbly spirit. And now, after all this, she's real depressed.
I know.
Poor Elaine.
Poor baby Elaine.
Nesta, on the other hand, though, she agrees to train and help them repair the wall and go to the hewn city if they promise her that they will kill the king and all the queens, if they're not already dead, by the end of the war. But she does not agree to attend the meeting with all the High Lords to tell her story of her experience with the cauldron.
No.
Nesta joins Cassian and Feyre to train, but Feyre just can't handle the bickering between them. So she asks Rhysand to spar with her, but he's in a meeting with the governors of the palace. In his place, he sends Azriel to start her flying lessons.
I do think it's really interesting that Nesta went up to where they were training because she had no reason to go up there since she was just waiting for Amryn to start her magical training lessons. She really had no reason to go up there. So I think it's very interesting that she moseyed her way up there.
Yeah, I know. After all those months of Cassian going up every other day trying to get her to train, she finally does. We do learn a bit more about Miriam this section, and that she died from a spear through her chest during the last battle at sea. She bled out while she was carried to safety, but Draken knew of a sacred hidden island where an object of great and terrible power had been concealed, an object made by the cauldron itself, legend claimed.
Oh.
He brought her there to Crete, used the item to resurrect her, make her immortal, as Feyre was made. Hybern must have promised Durian to use the cauldron to track that item, to where they now lived. Perhaps they figured it out, and that's why they left as fast as they could from where they were living with their two people.
That's why
Fays and the humans.
Yeah, that's why I need a prequel book. I need the story of Miriam and Draken and Durian
That would be so cool.
and Amarantha and Clithia. Like, I need that origin story. I need it.
Yeah,
I need
that would be
it.
so cool. I really, really hope that's one of the ones she's planning on doing.
And if she's not, Sarah, I would really like it.
We should start a petition online on Book Talk.
Yeah.
Or Instagram.
Yeah, one of them to start a
Yes.
prequel series so we can learn more about the love story between Prince Draken and Miriam.
Yes, I would love that. The extended inner circle meets for dinner. And by extended inner circle, I mean all of our inner circle members and Lucien and Nesta, since Elaine did not show. We get the typical banter between them. Mor tries to be nice to Nesta and compliment her dress, but of course, Nesta has a rude reply for her. Amryn tries to talk to Nesta as well, but she doesn't really get anywhere either. Lucien is struggling to figure out where he should sit. He doesn't want to sit at the head of the table next to Amryn and asks if Rhysand should sit there. He responds that he doesn't care where he sits, he just wants to eat. Another example of how rank is not enforced in Velaris.
No.
Lucien learns of his plans to meet with all the High Lords. He's worried about his father seeing Feyre because, we already know, he thinks that his father will join Hybern if he thought he stood a chance of getting his power back by killing Feyre. Feyre knows Lucien's brothers saw her use the power, so she assumed his father already knew. Mor suggests that Eris might keep the information to himself and convince the others to do the same if he thinks it's more useful that way. Lucien suggests that they find out exactly what they know because they will use it against them in the meeting to control her, or not show up at all and go directly to Hybern. Rhysand suggests that he and Azriel talk, and Lucien agrees. That's going to be an interesting partnership.
I know.
But I think it will be good.
I know. Too bad it's just from Feyre's point of view and we don't really get
I
to
know.
see things or what happens with them until she finds out about it.
Yeah. And we meet a new character to close out our character section of this episode,
Mhm.
Clotho. She is one of the dozens of high priestesses that works in the library. The library is a temple of sorts to them, but the high priestesses there are special and unique. A long time ago, Clotho was hurt very badly by a group of males. They cut out her tongue so she couldn't tell anyone who had hurt her, and smashed her hand so she couldn't write it either. They didn't kill her because it was more entertaining for them that way. The males were healing her also as they were hurting her, making the injuries permanent. To heal her, the wounds would have had needed to be ripped open again. Rhysand offered to take the pain away while it was done, but she could not endure it. Moore was the one who found her and brought her to Rhysand. Moore hunted the males down and then stayed down in the library for a month, helping Clotho heal.
Mhm.
Oh,
I
poor
know.
Clotho.
Such a sad story. And we know the other high priestesses working there are ones that have similar stories to Clotho.
Yeah, it's a refuge for them,
Yep.
which we'll learn more about in our world building section.
Whoa.
Yes,
Okay.
but first we're going to go into the autumn court because, of course, our section starts there. Feyre describes the colors as so vivid it was an effort not to gawk and gape. The forest house where Lucian's family lived had been built in and around the trees and rocks, and only its uppermost levels were visible above ground. It was so big it would take you half a day to walk from one end to the other. There were sentries in the trees, on the ground, atop the moss-covered shingles and stones of the house itself. So this place is huge with a whole underground tunnel system.
You know, my ass isn't going anywhere. I'd pick a room and I'd stick to it. I'm not taking a
Yeah.
half a day to come find you, Amanda.
No, a half a day, we would just stay in our own wings at that point.
Yeah, I'll write you magical notes and send them to you back and forth. Or maybe we can winnow through the house. Maybe that will make it
Yeah.
quicker.
That's true. They probably do winnow. We also see the Winter Court in this section. Feyre and Lucian get over the border into the Winter Court lands. Beyond the mountain, a great ice plain sparkled in the distance. It would take days to cross it. Feyre recalls learning about the Winter Court and its High Lord Callias. Towering, exquisite palaces bedecked in evergreens. Carved sleighs were the court's preferred method of transportation, hauled by reindeer. Sounds like a little Christmas
I
scene.
know. I want to see more of the Winter Court, except the ice
I
lake they
know.
were trying to cross.
Yeah. Their forces were well trained, but they also relied on the great white bears that stalked the realm for any unwanted visitors. Ugh, would not want to run into a goddamn giant bear.
Absolutely not.
Despite any tentative bonds, winter was one of the seasonal courts. It might side with Tamlin and Tarquin. The night court's best allies were the solar courts, dawn and day, but they lay far to the north, past the sacred land where the weaver's cottage is and under the mountain.
Mhm.
We're back in Valeris and we get a lovely little description of it when Feyre finally makes it back. She heard the song of the gulls, smelled the brine of the Sidra River, and felt the warmth of the sunshine. She's
So
home.
happy to be back in Valaris.
Yes. Feyre tells Lucian that they do not enforce protocol or rank there. Lucian thinks this is obvious since Rhys lives in a townhouse. And he was astonished when he heard the kids laughing in the street. I don't think he's probably ever heard that, at least since he's been in the spring court. And who knows what they freaking do to their kids in the autumn court.
Well, the manor is so far away from the other villages and the people
Yeah.
of the spring court, so they're so secluded away from everyone.
Yeah. It's wild.
And Reese is like, let me live smack dab in the middle of this city.
Yeah. Valaris was still scarred, though, from the attack from Hybern's soldiers and the ACOWAR. The streets were gouged from fallen debris and claws. Most of it had been repaired, but some storefronts had been left boarded up. Some homes along the river were no more than mounds of rubble still, which is sad, but they're rebuilding slowly. Rhysand tells Feyre that if a human or fae need to seek a safe place during the war, Valeris will be open to them. Adding new people from different places, different histories and cultures, he didn't see how that could be a bad thing, which is so true, Rhysand.
Yeah, no, I definitely liked him saying that because it was after we found out about Hybern, which I'm sure you're going to go over, but it's because they never added in any sort of cultural change that, I think Reason's like, I think it would be a great idea. This place has been secluded for too long, and I don't think he wants to have it what happened in Hybern in Valaris, which I don't think would happen either way, but I think always
No.
adding diversity and new cultures to your like area is always a good thing.
Yeah, I agree. And I think Hybern was destroying his people purposely to fuel them for this war, but we will definitely go over that.
Yes.
The Book of Breathings is back in our story. Since the two halves of the book are together, it loves to talk all the time. And it's in Amren's possession, and the inner circle is monitoring it.
Don't even get me started, Amanda. Don't even get me started.
I know. Oh, I already mentioned this a little earlier, but Kriti is where Miriam and Draken had lived with their human and fae people. Asriel had actually traveled there to see if they would aid them in this war, but they were gone and left no trace of where they went. It was not on the map, though, so who knows even where this location is in comparison.
Right. Where
Like,
are
how
they?
far did Asriel have to go to try and look for them? And it just leaves so many possibilities for what else is out there, because clearly there's more territories that are not on our map. Wild.
Oh, where did they go?
Where did they go? So we do learn a little history about Hybern. Hybern's wealth had been dwindling for centuries. Most of their trade routes before the war dealt with the South, with the Blackland. But once it went to the humans, we don't know if Hybern's king deliberately failed to establish new trade routes and opportunities for his people in order to one day fuel this war, or if he was just that short-sighted and let everything fall apart. But for centuries now, Hybern's people have been festering. Hybern has long viewed the days before the war as a golden era and these centuries as the dark age. So he is just filling these poor people's heads with these crazy ass theories and gonna make them all go to war over it.
Yeah, it's all a bunch of lies. And
just to get the most power.
Yeah, he's trying to ramp them up because they see themselves as liberators
Yeah.
of the high fae and not, these awful people coming to destroy the world.
Yeah, they're trying to go back to the golden era instead of these dark ages that the King of Hybern has pretty much convinced them that they're in now.
Yeah, I love when we use quotation marks.
Me too. Air quotes.
Air quotes.
Valahan, Rask, and Montessori. We learned that they had money and people. If Hybern was to send armies to Prithian, they are done. So, our inner circle sets a plan in motion to keep them busy with each other. They had been alerted of an attack and have their defenses up. The inner circle is hoping that that itself will prevent them from sailing over. Otherwise, they are dead. Something also might be amiss with the cauldron, because the cauldron should be able to bring down the wall on its own. But maybe the king used too much power transforming Feyre's sisters and those queens.
And Jurian. And locking them all the inner circle in the palace and taking away their powers. Like, he did do a lot all at once with the cauldron's assistance.
Yeah, so I wonder what's going on.
And maybe the cauldron just doesn't want to help him.
Imagine if the cauldron is just like, no, that's how our story ends.
Well, wasn't it in ACOWAR when Feyre sees the cauldron next to the king? Didn't it say, help me or save me? Wasn't it something? And she's like, I don't know if it meant Hybern or she wasn't sure. I can't think of the exact quoting of what happened. But maybe the cauldron doesn't want to be with the king of Hybern. Who knows?
Yeah, or maybe it does have unlimited power and he's just thinking it can just be restored and reused.
And Nessa definitely fucked it up. She took a lot of power from it.
Yes, which we will definitely go over later in the plot section. They decide they need to go to the Hewn City and try to get Kier to align with them in this war. But we learn that the steward of the Hewn City is legally entitled to refuse to aid Rhysand's armies. It was part of their agreement their ancestors made with the Court of Nightmares all those thousands of years ago. They would remain within the mountain, would not challenge or disturb them beyond its borders, and would retain the right to decide to not assist in the war. I thought that was so interesting.
It's such a dumb agreement that was made by his ancestors, because what authority does Rhysand even have in the Hewn City? But they do seem pretty scared of him, obviously, because he can just murder them with this, with just a thought. But I guess if he didn't have that, really, they wouldn't cooperate at all.
Yeah, I know. Obviously, they're scared shit of what he's going to do, which is why they stay in line. But I just think it's so weird that that was a piece of the puzzle. What are they going to do when all of Prithian's in a war? They're just going to stay in the Court of Nightmares and not do anything?
Yeah, I guess. We're just minding our own business in our mountain. Stay
I
out of our
guess
mountain,
so.
we'll stay out of your life.
Feyre and Rhysand entered the library under the House of Wind, where books were full of magic, and they wanted to keep humans from knowing any of it. So, you were not allowed in if you were human unless you were someone's slave on an errand, and even then you were closely watched. The librarians didn't keep slaves mainly because they didn't want them accessing the books in archives. When the wall was built, most scholars had time to evacuate and were able to winnow the books out. But if they didn't have the time or power, they burned the libraries rather than let the humans access their precious information, which is wild. They would rather
And
burn
crazy.
all of it so nobody can use it just so the humans don't get to it.
Yep.
Wild.
They don't like each other.
I guess not. Feyre asked Rhysand what was at the bottom of the pit in the library. He said he once dared Cassian to fly down there and see, and he came back up faster than Rhys had ever seen him fly, white as death. He never told Rhys what he saw. It had been 200 years, and Cassian still wouldn't tell him what he saw. That's so scary. And I know we learn about that for some reason. So I have a feeling we will find out what that is. There's
Yeah.
no way she would just mention it and forget about it. So I'm so eager to find out what the hell that thing is sleeping down
I
there.
know. I wonder where they stopped putting books. What level does it stop at that
I
they're like,
know.
"Oh, well, now the monster's coming." And then the monster just leaves the priestesses alone. He never tries to come up any levels.
I know. So crazy.
Yeah.
We do learn that the library was made into a refuge for the high priestesses, as we mentioned earlier. Some come to heal, work as acolytes, and then leave. Some take oaths to the cauldron and the mother to become priestesses and remain here forever. But it belongs to them whether they stay a week or a lifetime. Rhysand admits to spending a great deal of time in those weeks shortly after Under the Mountain in this library, which I thought was very interesting as he was letting Feyre almost marry Tamlin.
Yuck. Yucky.
Crazy. Feyre asked Rhysand where the half-breeds, the half-human, half-fae, went once the wall was up. He said it didn't go very well for half-breeds. Many were offspring of unwanted unions. Most usually chose to stay with their human mothers, their human families. But once the wall went up, they were a reminder of what had been done to the enemies lurking above the wall. At best, they were an outcast, and their children if they bore the physical traits as well. At worst, humans were angry in those initial years. In the first generation afterward, they wanted someone to pay for the slavery and for the crimes against them, even if the half-breeds had done nothing wrong. So yeah, it just did not end well for them.
I know. I feel like they took the punishment because there was no one else to punish.
Which is so sad because they probably were literally doing nothing wrong.
Yeah, they were innocent people, just like
Yeah.
the humans were.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Feyre and Rhysand did find some information about the wall while they were in the library. There was a lot of conflicting stuff, but the details that emerged on the wall's formation and rules agreed on one thing. It had never been made to last. It was a temporary solution to cleave human and fairy until peace was settled long enough for them to later reconvene. But it never happened. The wall became permanent. The wall became a legend, which is interesting. Maybe Hybern doesn't even need the fucking cauldron now at full power if it was never meant to last.
Yeah. How strong is this wall?
Yeah.
Well, there's already holes in it, so.
I know. Many holes. There's like 4, right? 4 holes?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Feyre suggests asking one monster who has nothing to lose and everything to gain to join them in the war against Hybern at the end of our section. And that is the Bone Carver.
Yeah.
He and Amren have both been looking for a way back to their old worlds. Wild.
Interessante.
Interessante indeed, Megan. I cannot wait to see how that's going to go.
I know. I'm so excited.
Yes. Me too. And before we get to our lovely plot section and some assumed foreshadowing, a lot of assumed foreshadowing in this episode, actually.
Foreshadowing.
We are going to do our Fast Magic section. That's my new name for it. Fast Magic.
Ooh,
Fast Magic.
I
Fast
love
Magic.
it.
Fast Magic.
I love it.
Thanks.
Fast magic section.
Yes. Do you like
Brilliant, darling.
Thank you indeed. All right, here we go. Fast magic. Feyre uses her flame power to trap Eris and his brothers in the cave so Lucien and her could run. She used her flame-licked power to bring down the ceiling to the cave and ran for their lives. Eris sticks his flame hands into the ice and a line shot right for Lucien and Feyre. Feyre counteracts with ice, freezing the lake again. Feyre uses her Dawn Court powers and shines a blinding light so that they can run. Flame is shoved into her mouth and wraps around her wrists and ankles and throat. Asriel's shield blocked the sentry's arrows of wood and magic. After an epic battle with his brothers, Lucien and Feyre winnow to Velaris with Cassian and Asriel. Rhysand snaps his fingers and Feyre is clean of the dirt and blood after their battle with Lucien's brothers, but apparently, it was only an illusion, so she bathed anyway. We get a scene where Rhysand's wings rip from him in front of Lucien as he is basically lecturing him on how to be a proper mate. Cassian and Lucien and Feyre and Rhysand winnow into the House of Wind. Cassian flies Feyre to the House of Wind as he is still strengthening his wings. Cassian can feel something in Nesta, usually when she's pissed at him, which is all the time. Which is another foreshadowing line of Nesta getting some crazy-ass powers, which we'll go over in the next section.
Mm-hmm.
While the inner circle was at dinner, Rhysand snapped his fingers again, and the prepared food appeared. When the man is hungry, the man is hungry. The meeting will occur with a binding spell that forces all High Lords into a ceasefire. If someone breaks it while the meeting occurs, the magic will demand a steep cost, which is probably their life. In order for Feyre to learn how to fly, she has to shapeshift and make her wings appear. Asriel inspects them and says, "It is amazing. They are the same as his." Feyre's first lesson in flying is to focus on lifting and folding, spreading and lifting over and over again. She has to strengthen pretty much her entire body before she will be airborne.
Yep.
And then we obviously get the magic with Clotho that I already went over in the library and that mystical magical creature. So that is all of the magic in this section.
Fast magic. Fast magic. I know. If anyone wants to come up with a jingle for us, that would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, we need a jingle for magic, for fast magic.
Yes.
But all right, Megan, let's dig into the plot, notable lines, and some assumed foreshadowing now. I will pass the mic over to you.
I'm ready to party.
Let's take another sip before we stop.
Cheers, darling.
Cheers.
Chapter 11. Lucien and Feyre entered the autumn court and it was brisk cold. The trees around them were beautiful shades of autumn. They came out with their swords out and their power is completely gone. So they're ready to fight his brothers or the dad. Like they're just expecting sentries or someone to be there when they step out of this cave. And Feyre realizes how reliant she had been on her powers, that she kind of forgot all the tricks and things that she would use when she was still human. But now she's just so reliant on her magic. She's like, oh, let me remember how to handle this sword. Feyre and Lucien have not spoken since they walked into the cave. But now, later that night, Lucien was telling her that they had to go into another cave that didn't go anywhere, but it would house them for the night. Inside there were candles, bedrolls, and Lucien said he used to stay there when he was hunting. Lucien is still in shock that Feyre had planned for all of this, but Feyre decides that they shouldn't eat the food in case it was all laced in faebane. So, yes, she had prepared for this trip, but now everything that she had packed to eat is basically gone to waste.
I wouldn't trust it either.
No. As it is, it's going to take them a long time to get their powers back, never mind if they keep ingesting the faebane.
Yeah, exactly. You're just delaying getting your powers back at that point.
Yes. Lucien says that he knew that she was full of shit. Amanda said earlier that her power with the light was the same his friend used in the Dawn Court, and it didn't do whatever she said it did. Lucien didn't tell on her because he didn't want to bring Tamlin down again. Stupid. And he thought that Feyre would keep Elaine for him. I feel like that's the only good reason, not about like Tamlin's feelings and how he didn't want to knock him down again.
Yeah.
Poor
Probably because he was thinking, if Tamlin's down, he's going to beat the shit out of me mentally and emotionally abuse me. So we have to keep him happy.
That's true. Lucien's like, I don't want to deal with him, so I'm just going to keep my mouth shut.
Yeah.
Feyre says that Elaine was never in any danger, and if she thought that she was, no High Lord or King would have kept her away from them. But Lucian still isn't buying it. He's like, well, what were you going to do with me when you were leaving? And Feyre's like, oh, that's so awkward, but you would have been fine. I obviously was going to leave you there.
Yeah.
And then Lucian thinks that she just kept him alive. Like she stopped from leaving and saved Lucian from Ianthe and then really the Highburn Royals because she didn't know what it would do to Elaine if Lucian died because of the mating bond.
Yes, indeed. I don't think Feyre was thinking anything about Lucian, though, in this moment.
I know, that's true, because she kind of thinks about it for a second. She's like, oh yeah, what would have happened if
Yeah.
Lucian did die? What would happen to Elaine? Lucian also wants to know why Feyre didn't just slit Tamlin's throat. And Feyre's like, well, I totally thought about it, Lucian, but if I were to do that, it would give too many openings for Highburn to go against them, the Night Court, and taking down the Spring Court was slow and lasting. And with what he did to her, Tamlin, that was worth it. That
Yeah,
is what he deserved, was
I
for his
agree.
entire court to be upended.
I know you hate being in the Spring Court, but I loved Feyre in the Spring Court in the beginning of this book.
I know I hate being there, but obviously I do like seeing the Spring Court get what it deserves. But honestly,
Yeah.
it kind of sucks because it's like I don't hate the people of the Spring Court. I just
No.
hate Tamlin, but that's the only way to take him down is by taking down his entire court.
Yeah. Well, also, I feel like Feyre kind of gave them an opportunity to get out because Rhysand tells her that the Sentries had abandoned him. People were looking for new courts to go to or to start a rebellion. So I feel like they got out, the ones that wanted to.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Feyre, though, doesn't want to argue now because she's tired and their voices were echoing. So she doesn't want anyone to find them.
Yeah.
Lucian said his father will kill her for having some of his powers and being able to wield it. And it's like Amanda said earlier, Feyre's like, that's okay. He can get in line with all the other people that want to kill me.
Yep. Unbothered queen.
Unbothered. Feyre says that they have to go north. They cannot go east towards the summer court, and she was not going to risk going too far west to go off the path and further away from the night court. No matter the risk, they had to go north. Lucian, though, the next day, catches trout with his hands. He's a very handy man.
Yeah.
All this like court politicking that he does, he really is a jack of all trades. He's really great to have on your side. He can catch fish with his bare hands.
I know. I think that's fucking hot. I would love to see that in real life.
I know. I do think Lucian is very attractive. So if I saw
Yeah.
that, I'd be like, woof.
I'd
okay,
eat all the
Lucian.
trout. Keep
I'd
catching them.
Yeah.
I don't even like fish.
I don't even like fish that much, but if Lucian made it for me, I would eat it.
Yeah.
They then hiked another 5 days north, and she then noticed they were out of Baron's reach of the forest house, was too far out of reach at this point. That's when Lucian's shoulders kind of sagged in relief once they got past those tricky portions of the woods. Or had they?
Or have they?
Feyre still had no access to her powers or to the bond with Rhys. She should have sent word to Rhys before she left to say where she was going. Well, like, literally, duh.
Duh.
Literally, duh. When she said that or
I
thought
know.
that, I'm like, are you kidding me? You
I
had
know.
this well thought out plan because it really was before she was losing her powers. Like, it was a really well thought plan in
Yeah.
case anything bad happened. And you don't think to tell your mate, hey, with the last power that I have, my
Yeah.
powers are going to be extinguished. Please come get me. I'm heading into the Autumn Court with Lucian. It's a
Yeah.
quick message. Or help power Autumn Court. Or
Yeah.
help power Autumn. And he
Help
would,
lose power. Autumn.
yeah. And then he would have found you.
Yeah.
I just don't understand.
I know.
But it wouldn't make the story for what it was. And
That's true.
whatever. It's just like, where is the critical thinking sometimes? Feyre and Lucian ate a lot of apples, which is kind of shocking after the poisoned apples she just chomped down a couple days ago. And
Yeah, they're just getting whatever they can on their hike now.
yeah, they're just eating all the apples they can after they ran out of trout. And
Yep.
Lucian then explains to us about how he knew the people around here and he knows that they would sell them out to his father if they saw them, because Baron
Right.
didn't pay them well and they were not very fond of Lucian after what happened with his ex and how he failed to protect her.
Yeah, they'd do anything for an extra check, I guess.
Yeah, they're so
Poorly treated.
yeah, poorly treated, poorly paid, that these people will do anything to get money.
Yeah.
Lucian says that he never thought about being a High Lord, even though he was trained probably better than any of his brothers in his
Mhm.
education and fighting. He got to know all the people in the Autumn Court, but there would have been too much bloodshed to get to the top, and then he'd have to rule over two-faced people. So Lucian
Yeah.
has no desire to rule over the Autumn Court because of just like the type of people they are that reside in the Autumn Court. They're just all ruthless, all backstabbing, and all
Yeah.
two-faced. And he has a bunch of brothers that he would have to slaughter to get to the top, because he isn't like Tamlin, where he was the strongest of
Right.
his brothers. And I feel like Tamlin wouldn't have even been able to help it. He would have just been able to push them over. He was that
Yeah.
strong. He had those High Lord powers and the strength, where I feel
Right.
like Lucian has the brains to be
Yeah.
a really good High Lord. He just doesn't have the power.
Right. Although I do see a similarity between Lucian, Tamlin, and Rhysand, because Tamlin and Rhysand also didn't want to be High Lords.
Mm.
Both of them didn't want to be High Lords. And now Lucian's saying he doesn't want to be a High
Oh,
Lord, but
foreshadowing.
foreshadowing! I wasn't going to say it, but
When it comes up, you just gotta say it.
yep.
Foreshadowing.
Foreshadowing.
Feyre and Lucian then started climbing the mountain range in between Autumn and Winter Court. She hoped by the time they reached winter, she would be able to contact Rhys, or at least be able to winnow home. Lucian is complimenting her basically on having his back with the Highburn Royals.
Yes, and this is actually my notable line for chapter 11, page 107. Feyre says, I had the element of surprise on my side. No, Lucian said quietly as I reached for a foothold into the next boulder. That was all you. My nails barked as I dug my fingers into the rock and heaved myself up, Lucian added. You had my back, with them, with Ianthe. Thank you. I see a little redemption starting here with Lucian. I was
I
so happy to hear, even though I still kind of hated him, that he was going to go with Feyre finally to the Night Court. So,
I I mean, I've always kind of liked the bond between Lucian and Feyre. It's very sibling. It's
yeah.
very like not toxic sibling like he has
No.
with his brothers or she has with
Yeah.
her sisters. It's an actual like take banter,
Yeah.
bicker relationship with Lucian, because no matter what happened, even in the spring court, she still had Lucian's back. He still had hers, and I think that's why she was so disappointed when he didn't stick up for her in front of
Yeah.
Tamlin, is because she's like, I feel like you're my family,
Same
and
Feyre. That's how
and
I felt about him.
and you didn't have my back, and you're supposed to be like my brother.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
they're making up a little bit now.
Yes.
So
Yes. A little redemption arc for him there.
yeah,
Just
they
a
make
little baby one.
yes. We're not there yet, but he's
No.
making up for it.
Yes.
They made camp and she finally slept, because I feel like she finally feels that her and Lucian are on good or better
Yes.
terms, so she can finally relax. Though
Mhm.
while she slept, she felt like she had entered Lucian's mind and saw how human she still looked while she was sleeping. But when she awoke the next day with a tight hand on her face, with someone saying, Look who we found, and it was Lucian's brothers, and two of them had Lucian trapped on the ground.
Ugh,
This is what
my
happens when you
heart.
let your guard down.
I know. You fall asleep for 2 minutes, and look what happens after 5 days.
Yeah, literally. I know, you're almost in the winter court. Like, you're literally almost there. And then they're like, surprise.
I had a feeling because they were like, Lucian shrugged with relief. I'm like, no, it could not have been that easy. There's no way.
There's absolutely no way they're getting in and out of this autumn court with no problems.
Yeah, no.
Which brings us to chapter 12. Lucian's father wants to see them. Baron was disappointed that they didn't stop by and say hello. Lucian, the diplomat that he is, says that they were on important business and they couldn't linger. But nobody is buying this. His
No.
brothers merely said that they already heard a rumor that Lucian and Feyre had run away together and had been sleeping together behind Tamlin's back. which is just so laughable. It's laughable at this point. And
Who is
it's
spreading that rumor? Is it Tamlin because he is the one that is so jealous of Feyre and Lucian's relationship? Like,
I
who else would have said that,
I
honestly?
doubt Tamlin started the rumor, but it might just be other people talking because they see how Tamlin reacts to Feyre and Lucian and how close Feyre and Lucian are.
Yeah.
But it's interesting and it's funny how fast word spreads around
I
Prythian,
know.
which is
Literally been a week.
interesting. Interessante.
Interesante.
That word never fully reached about Feyre and Rhysand in the summer court, though the servants were talking about it, but it never made it up the chain to the higher
Yeah,
fae.
that's true.
I'm gonna,
Uh-oh.
yeah,
That's
you can't.
not a good inkling for our meeting.
Feyre felt a trickle of her fire power emerging, and she said maybe it was because she was near the Autumn Court heirs, which she was going to use to her full advantage. She let Eris push her forward, and as she did, she turned around and elbowed him in the nose. She then threw out fire at him and his other brothers. She then locked them in a cave with her fire, and Lucian used whatever power he had to help her cause a cave in, but it wouldn't hold them for too long. They now lost all of their supplies, though, and Lucian no longer had a cloak, which is not good news because we're heading into winter and they're
Winter.
about to be freezing their asses off. Even
Yeah.
though they're fae and immortal, they can still feel the elements.
And have firepower.
Yeah. Feyre notes that if she had still been human in these wintry conditions, she would have been dead. That's how bad
Yeah.
these conditions are.
Mhm.
They were struggling. They still didn't have access to her powers. The Fae beam was still in play, and even though she shouted down the bond, she heard nothing back from Reese. She's just trying over
Mhm.
and over again to see if she has access. Feyre thought that they had to be close to the Winter Court, and once they entered it, his brothers would not dare to follow them in case it would cause trouble with another court.
Mhm.
Well, they don't really give a shit about things like that.
No.
Feyre saw another mountain range that they would have to take on, and she knew they needed shelter and could not take this on at night. Lucian, though,
Yeah.
was worried about his brothers, but Feyre's like, if we don't warm up, if we don't find shelter right now, we're going to be dead anyways. With your brothers or not, these conditions are terrible and we need to rest.
Yeah. Definitely.
They found a cave and she was trying to call out for Rhysand again to find her, but she got nothing back. So she's just trying over and over again. Lucian then
I'd be doing the same thing,
I know,
girl.
like, "Hello? Hello? Please."
Can you hear me now?
I'm in full regrets about not telling you earlier that I was leaving
I
the spring
know.
court.
This is like the Verizon commercial when he's like, "Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Can you hear me now?"
I just don't understand why going back to that, why she didn't just tell Reese quickly down the bond the night before. Or at
Yeah.
any point, because I know they were trying not to use it so that no one scented their mating bond and whatever, but I feel like that message is important enough to relay prior to you finishing your plan and then trying to escape. Yes, you have a plan, but you should have backup.
I think too, she's able to use the fire when Eris comes because she's in such a hype of emotion, which I think is when her powers are the most powerful, or she's the most powerful, where she can still get an inkling of the power. So if she can do that with the flame, why doesn't she get an inkling to be able to use the bond?
Make it make sense. Make it make sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
While they're in this cave, Lucian asks about Elaine, and Feyre tells him about her gardens, how she loved to plant, but she was a true lady in every other way. That even though she likes to get her hands dirty to the shock of the servants,
Yeah.
she's a true lady in every other way. She does also tell Lucian that she was engaged or is engaged to a Lord's son, and it was very much a love match. But the Lord's father hated the Fae and wanted to hunt them down and kill them.
Yeah.
Lucian is shook and says that he may have to ask Reese how he stomached knowing his mate was going to marry and share a bed with another male.
Rhysand's gonna tell you, Lucy.
Yes, he is. Lucian said he just wants to meet her just once to know if she is worth fighting for. Which, in my opinion, I know people are just like, oh, Elaine is just so boring and Elaine is whatever. I think that Elaine has a lot to offer, and I just don't think we've seen enough of her yet. And I think
Yeah.
she's totally worth fighting for.
Yeah, I agree.
I like Elaine, though a lot of people are just like, she's whatever. I don't think she's whatever. I think she's gonna have an important role in this world. I don't know what it is yet. I just think there's my prediction for today. I think that she is gonna be a big player in this series at some point when it's her
Yeah.
turn. And I don't know. Like I said to
She's
you,
gonna be some kind of mediator of some sort, I feel.
or she's gonna go the opposite way. I said to you the other day, I'm hoping
Oh,
for
yeah.
a villain arc for Elaine.
Yeah,
You wanna
that would be
You
wild.
think I'm boring? You wanna look down at me? Well,
Yeah.
here I am. Let's go.
You wanna turn me high-fey? I'll show you high-fey.
Yeah. Lucian also wants to know when Feyre knew Rhysand was her mate and if she was with him before she left the Spring Court. Feyre is offended by this. She never touched Rhysand until months later. And Lucian reminds her, well, you kissed under the mountain. And Feyre's like, I had no choice in this. And it's,
You don't even know what you're talking about. Shut up.
yeah, Rhys did that to save Tamlin. It's so
Exactly.
stupid. But Lucian cannot see past the mask that Rhys wears. But Feyre said that these were not her stories to tell and that Rhysand will have to tell them. But Lucian is just not convinced. He doesn't see how he could ever see this like hero or this good guy that Feyre sees.
Yeah, not yet anyways.
Yes. And then Feyre says, as one last comment, you'd think you'd be glad I fell in love with my mate, considering you're in the same position Rhys was in 6 months ago.
True.
And then this is where Lucian kind of lets his feelings out about how he feels about Feyre. Lucian's like, well, you left us, not just Tam
Yeah.
Tam. And Feyre's like, well, I told you in the woods that day, you didn't stick up for me. You abandoned me long before I ever left you. And then she also says to Lucian, you don't fit in with the Spring Court either, just like I don't.
Yeah. So this is my notable line for chapter 12, page 115. Lucian says, and where exactly do you believe I will fit in? The Night Court? I didn't answer. I didn't have one, honestly. As High Lady, I could likely offer him a position if we survive long enough to make it home. I do it mostly to keep Elaine from ever going back to the Spring Court, but I had little doubt that Lucian would be able to hold his own against my friends. And some small, horrible part of me enjoyed the thought of taking one more thing away from Tamlin. Something vital, something essential. I love that she's still thinking about ways she can fuck with Tamlin.
Yeah, because Lucian is so essential to Tamlin. Lucian would be
Yeah.
essential to any court, like I said earlier. So
Yeah, poor Lucian. His abuse in the Spring Court can no longer be tolerated.
and in the autumn court. So
And in
Lucian
the Autumn
must
Court.
be thinking at this point, like, where do I even fit in? What are you
Yeah.
saying? The night court? Probably not. So he's like, really, where do I belong?
But it is kind of foreshadowing since he ends up there and now he's going to work with Azriel with the spying. So
I guess
maybe he does belong in the Night Court.
we'll see.
We will.
They are now in the winter court the next day, crossing a frozen lake, and she was thinking about whose best the night court allies were, which, as Amanda said earlier, will most likely be the solar courts.
Mm-hmm.
Lucian knows that they will need to make shelter. They're trying to make a game plan of how to make it across this frozen lake because really there's no shelter in sight and this frozen lake seems endless. And that's when we see Eris and his two other brothers standing there with fire about to melt the frozen lake they were standing on.
Wild.
I can't believe they crossed over into the winter court to hunt them.
I know. That is when I wasn't expecting to see them.
Mhm.
I knew when Lucian was relieved and shrugged his shoulders when they were still in the Autumn Court, I knew something bad was going to happen. But once they got into the Winter Court, I was like, okay, phew. We're away from Eris. I had no idea they were just going to hop up in there.
Yep. They're just like, we don't give a shit about the rules. We're coming after
Yeah. Those seasonal courts, man, they don't give a shit.
you. Literally. Chapter 13. Lucian tells Feyre to run. Eris was now lighting the lake with his fire melting the ice. She could feel the ice becoming mushy under her feet. She was thinking they may not be able to outrun this lake. And then on top of it, they start firing arrows at them. Like,
Wild.
if trying to drown them wasn't enough, like, let's just shoot them while we're at it.
Yeah.
They were running, and since they're in the winter court, Feyre started throwing ice out in front of them and refreezing the ice that Eris had melted. So even though her powers are all still askew, it seems that when she's in the court with the powers it's associated with,
Oh,
she can use
yeah.
it. Like in Autumn, she was
So
able to
that's why,
access
yeah,
fire, and now she's able to access ice because she's in the
that's
winter
why she
court.
can't do the bond,
Yeah.
because she's not in the night court.
Yeah, I think so.
So that's why we can't talk through the bond. Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense now. But you're right, it is the power manifesting whatever court she's
Though
in.
I think though at this point her powers may be slowly coming back, and you'll
Yeah.
see next, because
Yes.
Eris was then in front of them, and one of the other brothers shot her, hitting her in the ear and face, and then an arrow that went right through her arm. She got the arrow out, but then Eris was coming for her. She then felt power and she winnows away, but Eris follows her because it's probably not the strongest winnow that she's done because she's
Yeah.
just starting to get her powers back. And he punches her in the face and gut. Like, didn't your mama ever tell you it's not nice to hit a woman? Like, what?
He seems like a woman hitter, this motherfucker.
Freaking Eris. He then
Freaking Eris.
wraps fire around her wrists, feet, and throat and gags her, but it was not burning her, as if like he just kept her there with the threat of burning her. But unless
Mhm.
he willed it, it wasn't going to burn her. He then starts dragging her, and he was going to take her back to the Autumn Court to speak with his father. They had sentries there too that were just waiting to drag them back to the Autumn Court.
Mhm.
Probably also had sentries there with him just in case winter starts coming out. Like, what the fuck are you doing on
I
my
know.
land?
And they were the ones shooting the arrows, weren't they? The sentries?
Yeah, like they're shooting it, the brothers are shooting it, like they are literally
Mhm.
causing chaos in the winter court, which is not even their court. Lucian, during all of this, is still fighting his two other brothers when Cassian and Azriel land on the ice.
Thank God we don't see any bears, though.
I know. That's just one more thing that could have just been added that I'm glad was not.
Yeah.
Cassian was whole and healed with his wings, and Azriel was healed as well. With Cassian there, Feyre then remembers all her training magically because she sees Cassian, and Feyre knocks Eris to the ground and rolls away from him. She undoes his magical restraints, and Cassian starts battling Eris while Azriel helped Lucian take on his other two brothers.
Mhm.
Cassian then stabs Eris in the gut. And this is when Feyre knew, like Amanda said earlier, that this needed to stop because they would need them in the war, or at least not have other courts turning away from them after killing them in the Winter Court. Now it's just like too many courts that don't belong in the Winter Court are fighting, and
Yeah.
it's just getting messy.
Yeah.
She
The politics are all over the place.
literally, she's like, as a newly high lady, I feel like I need to stop this. So that's
Yeah.
exactly what she does. She tells everyone to stop, and Cassian and Azriel immediately come and stand by her side. How powerful.
I
She
know.
undoes her
Chills.
sleeve and unleashes the power that she's been hiding because her powers are all coming back at the most convenient time now.
Of course, of course.
Her tattoo indicating that she was High Lady of the Night Court appears.
Yes, and this is actually my notable line for chapter 13, page 123. I am High Lady of the Night Court, I said quietly to them. Even Eris stopped sneering. His amber eyes widened, something like fear now creeping into them. There is no such thing as a High Lady, one of Lucian's brothers spat. A faint smile played on my mouth. There is now. Take that, Eris, you big butthead.
Yeah, because if she was made High Lady of the Night Court, it's like she has way more power than you even realize she has. So
Yeah.
you better knock it off.
Yup, you better zip that lip, bitch, before you get slobbered.
Literally. Feyre then tells Cassian to take her home, and they shoot off into the sky. Azriel carrying Lucian. Cassian makes a joke about who looks more uncomfortable, Azriel or Lucian, and that's when we learn Lucian's last name.
Mhm.
She then meets Cassian's eye and he says, "Hello, Feyre." And she throws her arms around his neck and he
Oh.
says, "I missed you too."
Oh, another little brother for Feyre.
So wholesome, that scene.
So
I know,
wholesome.
I can just see it. And he's holding her. He's like, "Hello, Feyre."
I know, and I think she was so happy to see him healthy again and flying and using his wings and
I know. I loved that
yeah.
reunion scene because she does have such a bond with Cassian. I think, Azriel is like in
Yeah.
the shadows and he will do anything for Feyre, but we don't really know him all that much.
Yeah, well, Feyre has the personal experience with Cassian doing the training and everything.
Hmm.
But she even mentions previously in ACOWAR that she knows that Cassian and Azriel would never stand by the side, or even more in Amryn too, if Rhysand ever treated her how Tamlin did. So we know they all have a really, really special bond.
Yeah, no, definitely. When they land, Moore is waiting for them and she pulls her into a bone crunching hug. Moore was a distraction for Callias while they went in to get Feyre, and she was also not ready to see Eris yet, which I think is so
Mhm.
interesting that Moore standing on the border is the distraction when literally the Autumn Court brought sentries in and Callias is not going to step in and do anything.
I know, because you know he got a mental
Yeah,
warning of all those people in his court.
he definitely knew what was going on. But
He was like,
yeah, I guess he's like, well, let's just wait and see what happens and see if I need to step in.
yeah, see if those polar bears are gonna be put to work or not.
I know. Moore says that Reese was far away when Fear asks, "Where is he?" And that he was rushing back to see her, and it was a long story. Moore then assesses Lucian and says that they will be going home into Valeris after looking Lucian up and down. So, whatever she sees, she feels is trustworthy enough to bring Lucian into Valoris.
Mhm.
Moore tells her someone was waiting for her there.
Yes.
Chapter 14. They winnow into the townhouse. Lucian is reviewing his surroundings and he notices he's in a city and that there are children playing outside and there are no screaming and people being tortured.
Yes. Tells you a little bit of how the spring court is and the autumn court, I
Well,
guess.
it's everything they think that the night court truly is.
I know.
Cassian makes a comment that it's lucky that it is that way after the attack from Highburn.
Mhm.
Lucian gets to meet Amryn for the first time and she
Yeah.
calls him a trained pet. And Lucian is like, "Where are we?" And
So confused.
Feyre said, "This is my home, Valoris, the city of starlight." And he's like, "And you're the High Lady?" And Rhysand enters back into the story officially with an "Indeed she is."
Indeed, Lucian, she is.
Indeed. Feyre literally falls to her knees, tears streaming down her face, and Rhysand kneels on the carpet in front of her. Literally, I could cry just thinking about this
I
reunion.
could cry too.
It's just so perfect. This is
Oh,
how mates who haven't
I
seen
know.
each other in a long time should react. This is just so perfect. You could just see how much they love each other.
Yeah. Come to think of it, actually, as we're thinking about this now, even when Feyre decides to go back into the spring court, Tamlin does not even act an ounce
No,
like this. Not even 50% of his
no.
reaction is the same.
I really just don't. This is why we need to add another column to Elaine and Tamlin
I
because
know.
I feel like if
I know.
he really loved Feyre still in that way, that he would have acted a bit more like this than he did because I think he's like, "Oh
Yeah.
shit, I have to put up this pretense now," because he never forced her. Well, I mean, I don't think Tamlin would ever force her to go back into her bedroom, but I definitely
But
think
nothing romantic, nothing to
to
try to
sway
like
her over, yeah.
romanticize her.
Nothing.
Yeah. He's just like, oh, you don't want to be touched?
Yeah,
Okay,
like,
bye. See you
not trying to
later.
hang
Go
out with
paint.
her, not setting up dates, not doing anything, and it's
Yeah.
like, "What are you doing, dude?" That's why I'm like,
Yeah. He's a
I
dummy.
think he just
Big
couldn't go
dumb
back
dumb.
on what he already did, he was stuck in that position, and it just is what it is. Rhysand then tells the rest of the gang to go find somewhere else to be for a while.
So they can bow chicka wow wow.
Like, thank God. It's been too
Yep.
long. Rhysand takes Feyre upstairs and he says to her that when he felt the bond go silent, he freaked out. freaked out. By the time he
Mm-hmm.
got to the spring court, she had already left. Tammy was hunting her and Lucian in the forest, but she had hid her scent so well that even Reese couldn't track her.
Oh, I actually kind of missed that part. I didn't realize that Tamlin was even
Mm-hmm.
looking for them until you
Yeah.
just said it again. Interesting. He hates Lucian's guts right now.
Oh, for sure.
He will probably kill Lucian if he ever sees him again, or try to.
Yeah. She then tells Reese that she is the one that killed the two Highburn royals. And we know that Highburn hasn't taken over yet, but all of Feyre's hard work has paid off, like Amanda said earlier. All the sentries turned on Tamlin after Feyre fled for her life because of Highburn, and they did
Mm-hmm.
nothing about it, and they see Feyre as holy. Ianthe never left her temple since Feyre left, and Jurian is back with the King of Highburn. So that's kind of like an update.
And this is actually my notable line for chapter 14, page 131. Feyre asks, "What about Ianthe and Jurian?" Rhysand says, "Reports are murky on both. Jurian has returned to the hand that feeds him, aka King of Highburn. Ianthe, I assume her hand is courtesy of you and not the commander's." "She fell," Feyre said sweetly. "Must have been some fall," he mused.
Cassian then shows Rhysand while Rhys is still standing there with Feyre in his room about what happened on the ice, and knows Rhysand knows she declared herself as High Lady of the Night Court in front of the Autumn Court heirs.
And I actually do have a foreshadowing line for this chapter as well, page 131, where Rhysand says, "Eris was always a male of limited days. Now, Lucian might find himself closer to inheriting his father's throne than he ever expected to be." Foreshadowing!
Yeah, especially after Rhys got to see what happened on the ice and what Eris did to Feyre.
Yeah.
We learned that her sisters are at the House of Wind, but she's not ready to face them just yet. Rhysand tells her that he was so far away because he was in the Mortal Lands trying to scope out the Mortal Queens because no one had heard from them since they were last seen in Highburn.
Because they're dead.
When and that's when he first felt her and sent Cassian, Azriel, and more to assist her. Feyre proceeds to take a bath, and then her and Rhysand make up for lost time.
Yep.
Feyre proceeds to take a bath, and then her and Rhysand make up for lost time. Spicy.
Spicy indeed.
They say they will never be separated like that again.
Oh, I hope they never are either.
I know, me too. Chapter 5. The sisters, as we know, are at the House of Wind since their arrival back from Highburn. They have not asked for anything or anyone, like Amanda said earlier, but it's just good to mention again. They're Hot
Of
Mess
course.
Express.
They're Hot Mess Express.
Feyre says that she would have to go to them because they definitely would not be coming to her.
No.
When Feyre came back downstairs, Lucian was sitting in the living room waiting for her. Cassian and Azriel were not so subtly monitoring every breath from Lucian was taking from the dining room table. When Lucian sees the mating bond and then the rings on Rhysand and Feyre's fingers, he looks at her with disgust.
Ugh, get over it, Lucian.
Rhysand is not pleased with Lucian's attitude towards his mate. He could care less about himself, but he's not going to let that fly when it comes to Feyre. Lucian was also read the riot act about how to behave in Valaris or he would be offed. Basically.
Off with your head.
Feyre tells Lucian that she was going to call off the wedding with Tamlin before Rhysand showed up, and he knew that. She's like, I don't understand why you're acting like this.
You knew I was miserable. You knew I was literally depressed.
Yeah, you knew I was going to call off my wedding with Tamlin anyways.
And this is actually my notable line for chapter 15, page 145. Rhysand is saying, "I was willing to lose my mate to another male. I was willing to let them marry if it brought her joy. But what I was not willing to let her do was suffer, to let her fade away into a shadow. And the moment that piece of shit blew away his study, the moment he locked her in the house, my mate may one day find it in herself to forgive him, forgive you. But I will never forget how it felt to sense her terror in those moments."
Mm-hmm. And Cassian and Azriel didn't really know about this. And so they leave their posts from the dining room and start getting closer to Reese and Feyre.
Mhm.
And Reese then says, "So again, I will say this only once. Feyre did not dishonor or betray Tamlin. I revealed the mating bonds months later,
Mhm.
and she gave me hell for it. Don't worry. But now that you found your mate in a similar situation, perhaps you will try to understand how it felt. And if you can't be bothered, then I hope you're wise enough to keep your mouth shut, because the next time you look at my mate with disdain and disgust, I won't bother to explain it again, and I will rip out your fucking throat."
Yes. Okay, Reese, get your girl.
So sexy.
Mhm.
I really need that in my life, Amanda. I need the
Me
touch her and
too.
die vibe. And I know that's like red flag city. In real life, I don't think your significant other should be threatening other people
No.
that they're going to murder them if they look at you the wrong way. But at the same time, I find it so incredibly
I
sexy
know.
and I want that. So I'm like, do I need to seek therapy or do I just like to read it in my
No, I
books?
think in the worlds that we read, it's absolutely okay to say that. So we just need to find an equivalent to our world of I'll murder somebody for you.
Yeah, exactly. Because when I read that and that just maybe it's just the protection
Yeah,
that we need to find. It's the "I've got your
no
back.
matter
I
what.
will protect you no matter
Yeah.
what, and I am man enough to do things like that." That's what I need. I just need that
Yeah.
manly
These
man.
men ain't menning lately.
Yeah, and on top of the "I'll protect you," he, like, respects her and her choices, and she is an equal partner to him in every way,
Yeah.
and it's like, you can find bits and pieces of these characteristics in men, but you can't find the whole
For only
package.
temporary
But
though.
then I'm like, of course, like, I love these men because these are men written by women, and it's what
Exactly.
women want. It's I don't think
Exactly.
this man actually exists. I really don't.
We should be forcing men to read these kinds of books.
I I
You wanna date me? After you read A Court of Thorns and Roses, come find me.
Yeah. After you read this, I want a two-page book report on all of them, and then I'll see if you
Yeah.
fully understood the assignment, and then we can talk about dating me.
Yeah, you need to write a full essay on how to be a great boyfriend.
Yes. What characteristics did these men present that I want you to have? And if you can name all 5, then we can consider a first date.
Yes.
People might be saying that's too much, but you know what? I have standards, and I won't settle for anything less.
That's right, Megan. You tell him.
Lucian smartly says, after that comment from Race, there seems to be a longer story to be told because Lucian is not dumb. We've been saying throughout this
No.
episode, he is a diplomat, he is a
Yep.
politician at heart, and he knows how to work a situation. And he knows that he needs to just put his mask on and just go with the flow until he can navigate this new court that he's in.
Yes.
Feyre changes the subject and says that she'll be going to the House of Wind to see her sisters and that Lucian can come with her. So it's kind of a peace offering. Like, please stop looking at me like I'm disgusting. And I'll let you come
Yeah.
to the House of Wind with me to see my sister. Azriel leaves to go on an errand, leaving Cassian to carry Lucian to the House of Wind. Feyre, Rhysand, and then Cassian then tell Lucian the entire tale of what happened from under the mountain to present day with her story. And I think Lucian made a comment like, "Oh, I never realized like I was such a villain in your story." And
Yeah.
that did kind of make me really sad because I think Lucian does really care deeply for Feyre.
Yeah.
And so I hope that now that he knows everything that they can find their way back to their friendship.
Yeah, and I think so too. I think he's finally realizing that his loyalty to Tamlin was so blinding.
Mm,
And he just felt like he owed Tamlin everything, even though it was hurting Feyre so
yeah,
much.
definitely. Feyre says she is going to go see her sisters now and for Lucian to just wait until she has a chance to speak with them first. They found Nesta alone in the library reading a romance book. Is Nesta more
Yes.
like me than I think?
I know, right? Should I start calling you Nesta?
Maybe. She just looked very relaxed, sitting in that chair, propped up, reading her romance book. And Feyre noted it was very un-Nesta like to see her like that. But when have you ever paid attention to Nesta like that?
I
Like
know, that's true.
before, like they were
In her
Yeah,
downtown.
crammed in a tiny cottage, and then when they were
Yeah,
back at the estate, Feyre wasn't there, and what she did see
right,
of her, Nesta wanted information out of her, so we've never really seen Nesta relaxed or having nothing to do.
right. Not bitching somebody out.
Yeah. Nesta, though, once she's back in a room full of people, is still very Nesta. Looks at Feyre, who she hasn't seen in a month, and is like, "What do you want?"
Yeah. And I actually have a foreshadowing line here in chapter 15, page 154. I wonder why no one has yet mentioned what now shone in Cassian's eyes as he gazed at my sister. The sorrow, the longing. I
Hmm.
wonder why he's longing for her, Megan.
I don't
Foreshadowing.
I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about.
The lies are very apparent. But anyways,
Nesta, though, does seem vaguely intrigued to see if she had accomplished her goals in the spring court. But besides that, she was very the F off Nesta vibes.
yes.
Elaine, on the other hand, is a ghost. Not eating, not thriving. She hasn't left her room. She is just staring out her window with the curtains open, saying, "I want to go home." And that's all she's been saying. That she was supposed to be married in a week and she wants to go home.
Mhm.
Lucian witnesses this entire interaction because you know his ass wasn't going to stay put. The second they were going to find
No.
Elaine, he was there. So he doesn't say
Yeah.
anything though, but he does witness what she looks like, how she's responding, and what she's saying.
Yeah, and I think he's actually taking into account what Rhysand said. If you want her to be your mate or you're finding yourself in the same exact situation, you better know how to act because
Mhm.
whatever brings her joy is whatever is going to bring her joy, and you're not going to stand in her way of that
Yeah.
if it's not you.
Yeah. Feyre said that she would take Nesta over whatever Elaine had become. Because
Yeah, that's
Nesta,
so
at the end of
sad.
the day, high fae or not, is still Nesta. Like that
Right.
personality and that fierceness is not changed. It's probably just amplified who Nesta
Exactly.
already was. But
Yeah.
Elaine is broken. Her
Yeah.
happily, bubbly, personable self is gone.
Yeah. Nesta might be angrier, but Elaine is definitely cracked now.
Yeah. Chapter 16. Lucian is going to be staying at the House of Wind, but on an entirely other floor than Elaine and Nesta. He is allowed to leave the house, but there is no winnowing in or out. You have to take the steps. If he does want something from the library or to see either of the Archeron sisters, he will have to ask the servants and they will ask Rhys or Feyre. And he's like, "Am I a prisoner in this house?" And they're like, "No, you can go wherever you want. You just to go to that floor, you basically have to ask permission. But if you want to leave the house and take the steps to go down, you're more than welcome to do that."
Yeah. Just leave the girls alone.
Yeah. Take the 10,000 steps down and you'll
Yeah.
be fine. And then take them back up when you want to come back.
Yeah, and you'll be dead and need a nap at the end. But go ahead.
No big deal. Cassian, Reese, and Feyre then fly to Amren's apartment where Azriel and Mor were already there watching Amren warily. Cassian is cranky over Nesta, wanting revenge or not wanting to prioritize the war over getting revenge for what was done to Nesta. Foreshadowing!
Foreshadowing.
Amren is cranky. She is not in a good mood.
Yes, and this is actually another foreshadowing line that I pulled out for chapter 16, page 159. But it was Amren who said from the floor, "You should kill Baron and his sons and set up the handsome one as High Lord of Autumn. Self-imposed exile or no, it will make life easier." I'll take that into consideration, Reese said.
Well, this is already the second time that this comment has been made in these such of chapters because
Yeah,
Reese says it earlier 2 chapters before about Eris may
I
not be the
know.
heir for long after I get my hands on him.
Yeah, so definitely some foreshadowing for sure. Lucian will be Autumn Court's High Lord, I believe, before the end of the series.
Maybe.
It's stuck in my brain. There's no convincing me otherwise.
Well, we'll have to keep reading.
Yes.
Amren also has books all over the floor conducting her research, and the Book of Breathings is as crazy as ever, but sitting under a glass of blood Amren had recently been drinking out of, which is like so
Yes.
casual. This important book that they risked their lives to get both halves of is now just
Yeah.
sitting under a glass of blood.
Just getting some condensation rings all over it.
Yeah.
And here's my notable line for chapter 16, page 161. Hello, sweet-faced liar. Hello, princess with, oh, be quiet, Amryn hissed towards the book, who shut up. So the book is feeling feisty again.
Well, it's probably because the halves of the book are together.
Yep, the two halves are together. God only knows what the fuck is gonna come out of that, but yeah.
So, Feyre is told that the information she got out of the Highburn twins were useful as it gave them confirmation of everything that they had been figuring out, like the allies that Highburn would have in this war.
Mhm.
They do not have any allies that would step up and help them, and Miriam and Draken are long gone from the islands that they had been living on for 5 centuries. They tried sending letters to them, but there was no response. There was more talk of why Jurian is working with the King of Highburn, but it's basically all just the Miriam and Draken nonsense again.
Mhm.
We learn why the people of Highburn are so adamant about the war, and there are no people who do not approve of it. And this is what they've been learning by sneaking back into Highburn.
Mhm.
Just like their allies, they seem to see themselves as liberators of the high faith people taking back what was theirs. The King of Highburn is just a big asshole who kept his people
Yeah.
so deprived for the last 500 years, not making any new trade agreements or bringing in new people or cultures, that they think this is the only way to bring themselves back to the Golden Age, which Amanda said
Mhm.
before, but I feel like it's just very important to bring up again.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Also, no one has heard from the mortal queens, which is this is now
Because they're dead.
another mention of how no one has. We're kind of like repeating the information
I know.
Rhysand already gave Feyre when they were discussing it alone, but now they're just
Yeah.
discussing it as a group.
Megan's probably going to kill me if I say they're dead one more time. But I really believe they're dead.
Rhys and Azriel are pissed that they have not been able to get into their strongholds still because the
Mhm.
King of Highburn has set them up so sweetly. Even Rhys and Azriel have not figured a way to get in there.
Yeah.
They talk about how if they're unable to get allies that they need, they have been spreading truths and lies between the rest of Hyburn's allies to keep them busy, preparing to defend themselves instead of looking towards invading Perithian. So they're just keeping them
Mhm.
real busy right now so they don't come and help Hybern.
Yeah.
We
Good plan. Good
good
plan.
plan. It's the only plan we have right now.
Yeah.
We know the cauldron is having problems since it made her sisters and the mortal queens
Who are dead.
because the cauldron should have been able to take down the wall on its own without having to need the holes already in the wall to assist its powers. Amryn has been researching on how to mend the holes in the wall. Since Feyre was made from all 7 High Lords, she may be able to mend the holes herself. But any thought to go and retrieve or nullify the cauldron is gone because the king keeps the cauldron with him now 24/7 and has added more wards and spells around it.
Mhm.
Probably because it's broken and the
Yeah.
king trusts nobody at this point.
Yeah, and they'd also probably he does not want it to get out that it's broken.
Yeah. Amryn says that they will need her sister's assistance in this war. Unknown what their powers are, but to show people what Hybern did to them to try to gain some sympathy for allies.
Mhm.
Feyre was then like, absolutely not. My sisters will not be getting involved. They've been through too much. And then Amryn
Yeah.
goes, that is a very Tamlin comment to me. Yeah, she's
Ooh.
like, you're acting like Tamlin.
That is the worst possible thing she probably could have said to her.
But she was taking their
I know.
choice away. And
Yeah.
Feyre agrees to make it their choice, even though
Yeah.
Mor literally jumps to Feyre's defense because now Feyre is their high lady. So Mor's
Yeah.
like, you're not going to talk to my high lady like that. And Amren's like, I'm just saying how it is. You always talk
Yeah.
about wanting the choice, wanting the choice, wanting the choice. Well, now your sisters are a part of this, whether you like it or not, because they were brought into this by Tamlin and Ianthe and the
Mhm.
queens. And so now they're a part of this war. And you're not going to take that choice away from them if you're not going to be acting like Tamlin. So, yeah. And Rhys says nothing.
True.
Rhys just sits back and lets Feyre figure it out on her own because, again, it's her choice.
It's her choice.
Pharaoh's like, okay, so we need to mend the wall. We need to finish this war before their allies get here. And we need someone to fix and nullify this cauldron. Not a long
Yeah.
list of things to do at all.
Yeah.
Rhys said that they are nearly ready for this war. The Illyrians are almost ready to go, but they do need a bigger force. And in order to win this war, they will need all the other courts in Prythian to be on their side. An
Mhm.
invitation for all High Lords will be sent out for a meeting that will occur in 2 weeks' time. Rhys says it's time to see who stands with us and make them learn of their consequences if they don't. Period.
That's right, baby. There will be consequences.
Yes. Chapter 17. After the meeting at Amron's place, Cassian flies Feyre back to the townhouse because he wants practice for his wings. There's a weird vibe between Rhys and Feyre because Rhys does make an offhanded comment in front of everyone about Nesta that Feyre
Yeah.
snaps back at him about. Feyre gets changed for dinner, and Cassian also flies her back to the House of Wind for dinner. They discuss how Nesta will never forgive Cassian for the promise he made to protect them. Maybe not so much for herself, but for Elaine.
Yes, and this is actually another foreshadowing line that I picked up in this section for chapter 17, page 174. Cassian says, "The day she was changed, I felt something different with her. It was like everything she was, that steel and fire, it became magnified, cataclysmic, like looking at a house cat and suddenly finding a panther standing there instead."
Yeah, she's a scary bitch.
That's steel and fire.
Hmm. Feyre asks why he even bothers. He says it's because he can't stay away. Foreshadowing!
Just foreshadowing after foreshadowing in this section. I have double the lines in the plot because I just kept seeing them all over the place.
Literally. Lucian is dressed so formally for dinner, and most are not, besides Moore, who is always just dressed formally, I feel like. And this perplexes Lucian, and he's like, WTF is the dress code. Elaine doesn't come to dinner, but Nesta does. And Nesta is dressed pretty formally. Her dress actually sounds gorgeous.
Yeah, it does sound gorgeous.
Moore tries to diffuse the tension by complimenting Nesta's dress, but it doesn't go over very well.
No, poor Moore.
Like Amanda said earlier, Nesta is the only person in, I think, the entire world that would dare to ask Amren direct questions.
Yes, and here's my notable line for chapter 17, page 179. Amryn says, to Nesta, "We are the same, you and I. Not in flesh, not in the thing that prowls beneath our skin and bones, but I see the kernel, girl. You did not fit the mold they shoved you into, the path you were born upon and forced to walk. You tried, and yet you did not, could not fit. And then the path changed. I know what it's like to be that way. I remember it long ago as it was." And yet another person here in this set of chapters saying that they see the power within Nesta.
Yeah.
Is it going to be stronger than Favors at this point? Like, that's what I'm expecting.
Yeah.
Insane.
The only nice thing Nesta said at dinner, well, really the only thing she said, was she could see what Feyre meant about the food because of the big argument that her and Nesta had in A Court of Mist and Fury. Lucian is also shook that Rhys did not sit at the head of the table. We got some inner circle banter, basically laughed through this entire scene, especially when Moore was like, "We live in the night court."
Yeah.
Because Feyre and Cassian are deciding about what time they're going to train in the morning, and they're like, "That is
Yeah.
so early." And Cassian's like, "Well, it's better to be up early. You got to catch the day, you know?" And Moore's like, "We live in the night court."
I literally would love to be a fly on their wall for every dinner for them and just be laughing hysterically at them
No.
the entire time.
Yeah, for sure. They talk about the High Lords meeting, and Lucian has some advice when he learns that all the High Lords have been invited. He doesn't say
Mhm.
anything about Tamlin, but he does give some advice on how to handle his father. Feyre is concerned because his brothers saw what she could do, and maybe the fire could be played off as Lucian's, but the ice she was wielding would be hard to conceal. And this is
Yes.
when Lucian decides to work with Asriel to find out what his brothers and father know. This chapter ends with Rhys saying that they have to discuss another meeting that needs to be had in soon, which
Yeah.
brings us right into chapter 18. The dinner continues with Rhys saying that they need to go to the Court of Nightmares in a few days to get Keir and the Legion of his Darkbringers to agree to fight with them during the war. Nesta wants to know why Rhys cannot just make them. Rhys says that there was an agreement made between his ancestors thousands of years ago, and like Amanda said earlier, that Keir basically gets to decide because he's the steward in the Huon City now if they go to war or not. That stewards in the past have refused to go to war, but Keir did fight in the last war. He has not yet refused to fight.
Right.
Moore doesn't want them to get involved, and Rhys says that we will need them in the upcoming war. Even Asriel doesn't come to her defense because he knows they need all the bodies they can have at this point.
Yes. And I just thought too, if he does decline, I kind of think maybe they'll kill him off finally.
Maybe.
That would be a way for Moore to start ruling something in the Huon City because she'll take over.
Yeah, if they would follow her. They're a wild bunch down in the Huon City.
True. But I feel like she would be able to get them in line.
Yeah.
Now I kind of hope he doesn't agree so that he gets freaking killed off.
Right? Feyre changes the tension in the room to tell everyone that she wants to learn how to fly. Asriel agrees to teach her since he learned at a much later age than Rhys and Cassian. Even if she does learn how to fly, it would take more than the months that she has before the war. But Rhys wants any advantage that she can get at this point. If she's going into battle, which she will, he wants her to have every power that she can going into these battles.
Yeah. And also because we know that her emotions definitely strengthen her power. So who knows? Maybe during the battle is the first time she actually does fly.
Yeah.
It has to, I'm assuming it has to be a really, really emotionally crazy, hyped up scene for her to be able to fly this soon.
Yeah. Feyre then turns to Nesta to talk about what the King of Hybern plans to do with the cauldron. That since she was made from the cauldron, that she may have a better chance at repairing the holes than Feyre would. Amryn says that she will train Nesta.
And another foreshadowing line here in chapter 18, page 189. Amryn says to Nesta, "If you want his killing blow, girl, it's yours." And I totally made this prediction in one of our previous episodes that Nesta was going to be the one to deliver the killing blow to the King of Hybern, and this just locks that in for me. I totally know no matter what kind of group effort it's going to be between them and the king, Nesta will for sure take the last blow at him.
Nesta says that as long as everyone involved in what happened to her and Elaine is killed, she will agree to help them go to war. She will not, however, help them through the High Lord's meeting to talk about what happened to her and sway them to their side.
And here is my notable line for chapter 18, which is also on page 189. Nesta says to them, "You have no idea what it was or was not. None. And I am not going to gravel like one of those children of the blessed, begging high fae who would have gladly killed me as a mortal to help us. I'm not going to tell them that story, my story." Feyre says, "The High Lords might not believe our account, which makes you a valuable witness." And Nesta interrupts, "Then it is not my problem if you are unreliable. I'll help you with the wall, but I am not going to whore my story around to everyone on your behalf. And if you even dare suggest to Elaine that she do such a thing, I will rip your throat out."
Ooh! Mic drop.
God damn it. Here's the Nesta we know and love.
Yeah. She's like, I'll help you with any technical things with magic that if I can help, I will. But I will not go around telling what happened to me because it's what happened to them is traumatic. And for them to be like, oh, can you parade your story around and tell everyone what happened?
And she's like, "You better not ask Elaine either because I will definitely fucking rip your throat out."
Elaine is shivering in the corner. She's not going to be able to tell anybody anything.
She's just going to be saying, "I want to go home" over and over again anyway. So.
At the High Lord's meeting, she's like, I want to go home. I was supposed to be married next week.
Yeah.
I want to go home. And they're like,
The
what the
rocking and all,
fuck
yeah.
is this? Moore
Yeah.
then tells Feyre she can drink directly from the wine bottle.
She's already caught Nessa's wrath earlier, so she knows how it feels.
Yes, exactly. After dinner and wine, Rhys asks Feyre to go for a stroll around Valoris. They are mostly quiet and contemplative, but they do address the awkwardness between them earlier because of Nesta. They
Mhm.
are allowed to question each other in public and in private, but she is his equal. And for right now, Feyre wants to keep a united front no matter what. They can always talk through their bond if they need to question each other.
Yes.
So they're just working out the kinks now that they share this equal power in the Night
Of
Court,
course.
because he's been alone doing this for a long time. And Feyre's like,
Yeah.
I feel kind of weird stepping on your toes, but I have opinions and I'm going to tell you what they are. So
I know.
they're just,
I did cringe a little bit at that line, though, because it's exactly what Tamlin was saying about how they need to work together with Ianthe and put on a front. I was like, ugh.
I know.
But she's right.
She is right.
She's right.
In this
Yeah,
circumstances, they need to do that. But when it comes to
exactly.
Anthe,
Yeah. Double fucking birds.
yeah.
Bitch.
They both decide they will fight with everything they have for their future and for their city. Chapter 19. Feyre shows up to training after a very fun morning with Rhys. Please, again, let me have this in my life.
I know.
What? She's like, oh,
Are you just picturing yourself when you read it?
yes. I'm like, oh,
Megan does this.
I love,
Megan
and I love,
instead of Feyre.
I love morning activities.
Oh, okay, Megan.
I thrive in the morning. Cassian knows what she has been up to that morning and says, I hope you didn't exert yourself too much this morning. Today is going to hurt. And Feyre's response is so perfect.
Yes.
She's like, 2 Illyrian males making me sweat in the morning? What's a female to do?
Yeah!
Feyre!
Feyre, darling.
Oh my God.
No, that was amazing.
Making me
Amazing.
sweat.
I'm telling you, her lines this book, unmatched.
I know.
Unfucking matched.
Cassian is bringing her back to basics today after her time away from training. Cassian is not happy with Feyre.
I don't blame him.
I know. He wouldn't even speak to her until her warm-ups were done, and even through his reasons of why he was upset with Feyre, he was making her train. He was not pleased that Rhys and Feyre kept him from the fact that she was now his High Lady. Hybern was a disaster, and it would have been handled very differently if he had known that she was his High Lady and not just Rhysand's mate. He said that when she was just Rhys's mate, of course he would have laid his life down for her, but she was still Rhysand's to protect. And as
Mhm.
High Lady, she is everyone's. So they
Yeah.
can't overstep when it comes to the protection of Feyre, especially because Rhysand was present. But as High Lady, they can step in to do what is necessary to protect their High Lady or High Lord.
I also think this scene is so important because she's realizing in this moment that Rhysand will save everybody else and literally will kill himself
Mm-hmm.
if that's what it takes.
But
And she's like, oh, hell fucking no. You are going to be in my future, motherfucker.
But I also think it's Cassian warning Feyre that he knows she's exactly how Rhysand is, and that she sacrificed herself and didn't find herself essential enough when it came to that whole situation in Hybern, that she went to the Sprint Court and sacrificed
Yeah.
herself for her people without thinking about any of them or coming up with a different way. Yes, that's how she saw the only way out, but was it?
Right.
So I think he's saying, don't be like Rhysand. This is what
Yeah.
Rhysand will do. And I kind of see you doing the same thing to stop Rhysand. So don't
Yeah.
even think about it again.
Yeah.
And he's like, I've had my words with Rhys already about this, and now I'm having my words with you.
Yeah.
Because Feyre's like, you're mad at me? He's like, hell fucking yeah, I am. I'm the general
She's like,
of these
me?
armies.
What?
Yeah. They planned this Hybern visit to a T. Azrael and Cassian had this down pat. And Feyre goes and fucks it all up. And they keep vital information from them.
I can totally see why he's pissed. I would be the same way. And this is my notable line for chapter 19, page 202. Cassian purrs. Care to join? Nesta replies, "It doesn't look like you're exercising anything other than your mouths." "Scared?" Cassian said. "Why should I be scared of an oversized bat who likes to throw temper tantrums?"
It's just
So if
too
she's
good.
describing him, okay?
Yeah.
So now we're in the okay, this is gonna be another point for Lucian and Elaine, but she's describing him as an oversized bat who throws temper tantrums, okay? If they are mated, does that not sound, besides the bat part, but does that not sound like Nesta?
Wait, what?
You throw temper tantrums 24/7, Nesta.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Sorry.
like a good similar trait between them for them to be mates.
Yeah,
Some
sorry.
more foreshadowing.
No, that makes so much sense. They are
Yeah.
acting the exact same way.
I wonder who's going to see it first, Nesta or Cassie? Or if Cassian's already seen it
Maybe.
and not telling anybody.
Yeah.
Cassian.
Interesante.
Interessante.
Feyre sends a message down the bond that she needs Reese to come and save her ASAP because Nesta and Cassian are bickering. Rhysand cannot get out of his meeting, so he sends Asriel instead. Asriel is an awful liar and says that he needs to take Feyre for her flying lessons early, which it's so funny that Asriel is not a very good liar considering that he's a spy.
No shit. He should be the best one at lying, actually.
Yeah. Nesta was waiting for Amryn because she would be starting her lessons today. Feyre goes off with Asriel and she grows her wings for the first time since she grew them in the woods with Lucian. And before she does this, she's kind of just, I don't know, not wasting time, but trying to just distract Asriel because she's having a panic about growing these wings again. So
Yeah.
she's asking him about his meeting with Lucian. Is he nervous? And Asriel's like, should I be? And then collecting information on the High Lord, he's like, yep, we'll be doing that. He's like,
Yeah.
Feyre, like, you're going to need these wings in order to fly. So once she finally does, Asriel is giving her pointers on what to change and what to add. And then he compliments them. And she's like, oh, well, I think it's just the magic. And he's like, no, like, you're an artist. Those are like my wings. Like, you can just picture them. And this is what you grew. And I just really thought that was very sweet of
I
him.
know. I loved that. Finally, someone's calling her an artist.
Finally. And
3 books into her painting, and she's finally an artist.
And we get to see a little bit more of Asriel now that she's going to be training with
Yeah.
him.
I know. Yay.
We need more As in our lives.
We do.
She learns that she will basically need to strengthen every part of her body so that she will be able to keep her wings off the ground and then be able to fly. Because basically her arms, her legs, her abs, her back, everything is not in good enough shape.
Yeah, obviously, they're going to be heavy.
Yes.
They're literally bigger than your whole body.
Yes. Her training with Cassian is now more important than ever, but in the meantime, Asriel gives her some wing exercises to do. She now feels, though, that learning how to fly may be a waste of time.
Yeah, I mean, if you can't even lift them, how are you going to lift yourself off the ground with them?
Yeah. Chapter 20, our last chapter.
Yep.
Feyre and Rhysand are going to do research in the library at the House of Wind after her training with Asriel, and she's already feeling sore. This girl has had a very epic day, from her sexy morning with Rhys, then her training and bickering with Cassian, working that out, then avoiding Nesta, then trying to grow wings and learn how to fly with Asriel. Now she's going to go do research in a library. That's a lot for a high lady in one day.
She needs sleep, even though she's immortal. They still need their sleep.
Yeah.
Rest and recover.
Yes. We learn there used to be great libraries before the war, and most of the scholars who worked in them, if they couldn't save the books or bring them with them, they burned them to the ground so the humans would not have access to them. Feyre is confused by this because she knows humans don't have magic, but reason reminds us that some humans do if they had distant ancestors who had Fae in their bloodline, because we know that there were half-breeds and things like that. But this brings me back, and I've mentioned to you this on the phone.
Yes.
I think that there was magic in Feyre's bloodline to begin with, and I think that her mother was either somehow related to the Fae or was a witch or something. I just can feel it. It hasn't been confirmed, but I just think that Feyre and the Archeron sisters have some magical abilities to make them so powerful and so great.
Yeah. And you did mention to me when you mentioned this on the phone that Tamlin or Lucian had said to Feyre, "Didn't your mother tell you about us?" And she was like, and we were even like, why would her mom know anything about them? But it makes sense with that theory.
Yeah, because, like, why the mother specifically? Like, why not
Yeah.
say, didn't your parents tell you about the
Yeah.
Fae and about us and different things that you should be worried or concerned about? No, they specifically mentioned her mother. And I don't think that that was done just, like, without purpose.
No, we know everything she writes in these stories is purposeful.
Yeah,
Everything. So I think you're onto something there.
we'll see.
We'll see.
This is when we learn about what happened to the half-breed fairies and humans. Rhysand says that during the war that's coming, if humans or fairy need to seek sanctuary in Velaris, that they would open their doors for them. We then
Mhm.
meet one of the priestesses in the library and we hear about her story from Rhysand. He says that all the priestesses in this library have similar stories and the library is theirs and their sanctuary. They get to decide who comes in. Feyre
Mhm.
is now one of those who the library belongs to because she has also been through something traumatic, like really unbelievable, everything
Yeah,
that's happened to her.
literally. In the year.
Yes. We learned that there is something, maybe a monster, that lives down in the bottom of the library that Cassian is petrified of. He will not let anyone go down there. I immediately, for some reason, would want to go down there and see what it is.
I wouldn't. I'd be like, I'm just gonna forget you even mentioned that and go as far away from this building as I can.
Yeah, like, I know, but if you're not going to know what's down there, I wouldn't even want to sit in that library.
I know, that's true. Because you never know, it could erupt or do something at any moment,
Right, because you
literally.
don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Reset.
What if it's a giant snake and just slithers to the top? Oh my god.
Rhysand sometimes comes to the library when he needs some time alone. We get a steamy scene between Feyre and Rhysand. Well, it's more like flirting, but he does
Yeah.
do a little touching. And he
Mhm.
says, "Let me see what names you call me when my head is between your legs, Feyre darling." Ah!
Woo!
So good. Anyways,
So
he
good.
then winnows 2 levels below her, saying that she was distracting him and that they need to do 2 hours of work and then they can play.
Yeah, she was the one distracting him, right.
Yeah, he was the one doing all the touching and the
Yeah.
feeling. They go back to the House of Wind and discuss what they found. A lot of the books were conflicting, but they now know for sure that the wall was supposed to be temporary and was never made to last, which we've already discussed.
Mhm.
Feyre asks, even if they get all the courts and the night court with care, do they have a chance at survival? Rhysand tells her it is very slim that they would stand a chance, even with all of that. So
Yeah.
Feyre's thinking like, what could we do? Rhys does not think that the King of Hybern would agree to a one-on-one fight between Rhysand and himself.
Mhm.
And even if he did, the effects on the world with all that power would be catastrophic. Basically, if it came to blows between them, like God knows what would happen.
Yeah. Bless the cauldron.
Bless the cauldron, bless the mother.
Bless the mother. Mother save us all.
Literally. Rhys is fully ready to give everything, even with Feyre here now as his mate to protect her, his family, and all of Perithian. Which it's just so wild that I want to know what these other High Lords are thinking and why it seems like the pressure is all falling on Rhysand to save Perithian. He
I think
almost,
that's just how he
no,
is.
I know, but he definitely,
Because he does it with his own freaking court.
yeah. And he acts more like a king of Perithian than he does
Yeah.
just a king of the Night Court.
Yeah, that's so true.
Hmm.
But I feel like that's how you become a good king or a good high lord in this case. You're thinking about the well being of everyone instead of just you and your territory, then.
Yeah.
That's an admirable trait.
That is very true. Feyre wants him to rely on his family and all the other courts and not take everything on himself. She suggests
Mhm.
if the King of Hybern will expect the other courts to fight with them, the Night Court, he would never know if they had monsters on their side.
Just because I cannot get away without saying this one more time. Here is my chapter 20 notable line, page 222. Amryn warned us to never put the two halves of the book together. But I did. She finally admits. She said that older things might be awoken by it, might come sniffing.
Do not put the two halves of the book together. And here she is.
How many fucking times did she say that?
And here she is fully admitting, yeah, I was told not to do that, but I did it
But I
anyways.
did it. Yep. So now we have to not only worry about whatever the fuck is under the library or hiding or sleeping, whatever it is doing down there,
Yeah.
but also all of these other creatures that are bound to show up at some point in the story.
Yeah. Feyre says that their first stop would be to go speak to the bone carver to see what he would be willing to do to get back home. And that, my friends, is how our chapters end in this episode.
Epic. I can't wait to read more about the bone carver again.
Yes. I'm so excited.
I'm so excited. Yes, indeed. But before we get there, let's go over a few predictions I had for this section.
Okay.
First, I think that obviously the bone carver is going to agree and he's going to end up working with them. But she says monsters, plural.
Mm-hmm.
That she wants to ask. So I do think, because just like I mentioned earlier, there's always a reason why Sarah mentions something in the story. I think that they will also try to awaken whatever it is at the bottom of that library to join their forces as well.
Interessante.
So that's prediction number 1.
Yep.
And prediction number 2, Megan actually asked me this after we were done reading our section, which of the courts I thought the meeting would be held in, because we still don't have a location for our meeting yet. And I feel like there was a lot of mentions of the Dawn Court from the magic there with Lucien. He mentions it a few times, which might be some foreshadowing for the Dawn Court to be the location that it takes place. Or I feel like the Summer Court, even though there are blood rubies on the line, they're a more of a neutral court, we learned. So maybe they would agree to hold a meeting there. So my 2 top choices are the Dawn Court and the Summer Court.
Yeah, I asked her not to tell me what her answers were until I could see them now, because I don't look to see what her predictions are. So I asked her not to tell me. So I am shocked. I'm not shocked by the 2 that you picked, but I thought that there would be one more that you would have added in there, because I know you said between 2 and 3.
Really?
Courts. No, I just was interested. I thought you would have the day court in there as well, but yeah.
Yeah, because they're a solar court. I just feel like we don't really get any mentions of them. And if we're going by the rules of Sarah J. Maas, if it's not mentioned, it's not happening.
That is very true. We don't really hear too much about the day court.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not yet anyways. Who knows? Yeah, so those are my 2 predictions for this section. And that is all we have for you today. I cannot wait to see the bone carver again and figure out what the fuck this monster is sleeping away in the pit of the library. We really hope you enjoyed this episode. Please let us know what you think by leaving us a review and comments on any of the platforms you are listening/watching on, or on our social media pages. This helps tremendously to get the word out and lead more listeners to find our show and tune in. Thank you so much for listening. Join us next week where we start part 3 of A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas, covering chapters 21 through 32. Happy reading!
Yes, don't forget to email, follow, subscribe, rate us 5 stars, and tell all your friends about us. We hope the rest of your day is blissful. Bye!
Thank you so much for listening. Join us next week where we start part 3 of A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas, covering chapters 21 through 32. Happy reading!